Hi, guys. So, welcome back. This is the third and last portion of this class. And we're going to speak right now about the iceberg theory, which is an iceberg assignment, which was one of our favorites. And it really was that moment, when we both went through our breakups that we were so clear as to why we were attracting those guys that had low self worth and therefore equaled our self worth or treated us unworthy. Um, and this theory is not our own. It was created by Sigmund Freud. And his whole philosophy was we live our 10% of our lives above water. So think about an iceberg and think about the tip of an iceberg. That's 10% of the iceberg. Okay? So picture now us as an iceberg. We live 10% of our lives above water, meaning the only portion of our lives that people see, that most people see, is our image, what we, put out there to the world. So, for instance, when I did this, my 10% consisted of all those things that people have, you know, said about me that I wanted to convey to the world. So, I was strong, I was successful, I was, loyal,
Confidence.
I was confident, I was, you know, I don't know, comfortable with myself. I was, all the really positive things that I wanted to portray to the world. And again, all those things that were complimented to me by friends and family. So that's 10% of what we really reveal to the world. 90%, okay, um, of who we are is below water. So that 90% basically represents all our fears, worries, insecurities, all those things that really make up most of who we are. Okay, that bubble up eventually to the surface when we're in relationships or when, life isn't going our way. When we feel like we act inappropriately, that's really that 90% that's bubbling up because we can't hide the fact that this is who we're made up of. So what you need to in this assignment, so you guys got this assignment in your package. So 10%, this is your 10% above water. This is your 90%. So 10%, think about all those amazing things that you reveal about yourself to the world, to your friends, your family, lovely things that have been said about you. And maybe even things that have been said about you that's not so positive that you have taken on and you actually wear, on occasion, here or there. And then focus on the 90%. So again, all your insecurities, your fears, your worries, your concerns, all those things that sabotage you from becoming your best self in a relationship, in your career, in life in general. Okay, and then we need you to kind of get real with this. Okay, we need you to really look at that 90%, and that 90% is ultimately what you need to work on in order for that water level, okay, to decrease. Okay, because what you want is you want most of your true self to be revealed, or else you're living a lie, right? But once you start working on that 90% and those issues, those fears, I mean, they could even be like goals and values that you don't reveal to the world. Maybe you want to become a school teacher, but instead you're a scientist. Maybe revealing to your family and friends that you want to take a pay cut and go back to school and become a second grade teacher, that might be worrisome to you, that you might be judged. Those are all things to kind of put in that 90 percentile. And you might have questions with this. This is a really vulnerable assignment, because you have to, as we said, you have to get real with yourself. It's truly like you feel like you're naked, from the inside out. I remember when I did this, it was one of the it was one of the most powerful assignments for me to do, because I needed to really reveal to myself who I truly am portraying in that outside world, and then ultimately how I feel about myself inside. And it was I cried, I got mad,
I
I
threw up when I
yeah.
did mine. Like literally. I was so That's a little extreme, but I was so bothered
Yeah,
by the
it's
discrepancy.
yeah.
And one of the good things to do is to ask your friends and family, pick a few people who are close to you and say, like, what do you think of me? And we both did this. And I remember when I did mine, there were the usuals, the things I thought I know people always think about me, some of which are extremely untrue. Like how people think I'm so extroverted and I'm so outgoing on the life of the party when in fact I'm incredibly, like, terrifyingly shy. But it's interesting to hear people's perceptions. People thought that I was um, stubborn, and I am. And it was like a hard truth to accept. I was like, oh, I am. And then the choice is like, do I want to continue to be that way or not? But it is a very revealing, tough experience
Yeah.
to go through. But it's important because you can only hide for so long.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
And once you stop hiding, that's when you really attract what would be considered like your soulmate, right?
Right.
Because it's like, here you are, you're clear on who you are, you're comfortable with who you are for the good things and the stubborn qualities that you
Yeah.
have. Um,
And we hear so often, and we both said this, when you get out of a relationship, you're like, who am I? You know, that 90% is exactly who you are. That's why it's
good
so
point.
important to get in touch with yourself. And yeah, for me, like in the 10%, so many people, so many friends were like, oh, you're strong, you know what you want, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, I was in a very dysfunctional relationship, obviously with someone that couldn't give me what I want, and it's one of those things that you kind of have to suck up and be like, God, I'm pretty much acting as a fraud to the
Mm-hmm.
world. When you really get true with yourself and start living authentically, it's like a weight was lifted off your shoulders.
And you find that the people who loved you as what they thought you were love you even more
Yeah.
because they see that you have humility and realize, like, I'm actually not that strong. I'm not. I'm not what you perceive me to be, and it's been a hard act to put up for this long.
Yeah.
So, and it makes you real, and people like real people.
Totally. And when you start looking at the 90% too, and I think I was mentioning this to you, I'm like, oh my God, no wonder why I'm attracting these guys.
Oh yeah.
No wonder why I'm entering these relationships that's not working out, because this is actually how I feel about myself, and this is ultimately what I'm attracting and what's, bubbling up in many of my relationships. So it's the real deal.
Very much so. And people feed off. It's not just men. People feed off of our worst selves
Yeah.
when they don't feel good about themselves. When people feel awesome about themselves, then they feed off the best of people.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally. It's a great point.
yeah, they feed off the 10%, which becomes like 50%, and you won't get to be 100% above the
Yeah.
waterline. That's just
No.
that's unrealistic. And in fact, it's in our sociocultural existence. It's counterintuitive to be that exposed.
Right.
You want to have your persona, to some extent, but you don't want it to dominate who you are.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. All right.
So that's this class. That's week 3. We hope you liked it, and we will see you on the chat in a little bit.
Bye.
Bye.